Hey, this is Wayne Deaton from the Groove Kitchen. Today we're going to learn about transitions, going from one chord to another. A lot of guitar players that get started, beginners on up to intermediate, have hard trouble from going from chords that are kind of challenging from one to another. What we're going to do is talk about a couple things that you can do to get over that hump. First thing we have to do is talk about chords that are hard for you to play. Chords that are hard for me to play, one would be a B7. That's kind of hard for me because it's the one that I use the least. So you go to your two hardest open chords and you just play the chord one time, and the next chord I will use an E major, open E chord. So I'm going from B7 to E major. Now that's what I would have to work on for me, because that's a hard transition for me. Transition is another way of saying going from one chord to another. So you pick your two hardest chords and you just play one and you go to the other chord as fast as you can. Now for a while you're going to want to look at what you're doing because it's going to make it a lot more accurate. About 3 or 4 minutes of that, you're not going to have to look down anymore, or you want to challenge yourself to not look. So I'm going to try not to look at these two hard chords for me. It's going to be challenging, but I'm going to be able to do it. We're basically getting used to not using your eyeballs to play your guitar. Very important. People that don't look get a lot better a lot quicker. So before you know it, you're playing your B7 and your E major much better and much quicker. That's one example. We also want to talk about fingering. Now, I use finger 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the B7 chord. That's the most common open B7. Well, that's the only open B7 chord you can use. Okay, for a standard tuned guitar. Okay, now when I use finger 1, 2, 3, and 4, there's no guesswork. But when I go to a chord that only requires 3 fingers, then you be careful in how you pick your fingers to use them, because the fingering of the chord can mean the difference of a good transition and a bad transition. So when I play B7 and I go to E major, I use, personally for me, the best way for me to finger this chord is fingers 2, 3, and 4. Okay, this was 1, 2, 3, 4. I use these 3 fingers for E major. So when I go from B7, it's fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, to E major, I'm using fingers 2, 3, 4. Now, I tell a lot of my students that I teach through the week, be careful what fingers you use for what chords, because you need to look at the next chord that's coming up. That should dictate how you play your previous chord. That's going to make a big difference on your transitioning. Say we want to play an F sharp minor after our E major, then all I have to do is just slide this up like that, put this finger number 1 down, raise up finger 2, and I have an F sharp minor. So let's say we are going to play B7, E major, F sharp minor. Then my transition was a lot easier because I picked my fingers wisely for how I fingered the chords. This was Wayne Deaton from the Groove Kitchen, and don't forget to check out our Facebook. All the ingredients for making